because Nicola's obviously got plenty of things to do, and so do you. I'd like to thank you for attending today for this session. You would have received, Journalism 3 students specifically, would have received your portfolio brief, and you would have noticed that one of your tasks is to report on a press conference. You'll be working with PR3. These press conferences will take place next week. You will be invited and you'll be expected to report on what happens at these press conferences. That being said, okay, I decided to invite Nicola Mawson today, Nicola, to come talk to you about what it's like in that environment, what you're actually reporting on at the press conference, and how to do this all as a journalist in terms of what it would be like in the world of work. Okay, Nicola Mawson is currently the business editor at IOL Online. She's got about 30 years of journalism experience 13. in 13.
It's just double my age.
Sorry, journalists, they age much quicker because I think it's so stressful, so maybe it's that. Several other positions and roles in the journalism industry, so obviously she'll give you more information, but I want you all to just give a warm welcome to Nicola and listen to what she has to say, and yes, enjoy. Thank you very much.
Hi, so yeah, like Stefan said, I'm Independent Online's business editor, which basically means I'm overall in charge of that entire website. In charge of the copy that goes up, in charge of how many readers get driven to it, strategy rebuild, social media, the whole lot, and I've got one other team member. So I need to get on with this so I can go back to work. I've been in the industry for 13 years. I've studied to the point where I'm now overqualified. I have a master's degree and several advanced certificates. And I'm here today to go through what a press conference would be like. So I thought I would explain what a press conference will be like, and then we can have a mock press conference. Just so you know, all of this is pretty much made up, except for the one news story that was real. I thought that was fairly obvious. We made it up, PR. PRs are known for making things up, but I thought I'd go the extra mile and make it obvious. They do, they make things up all the time. I know this. Point them out. The idea here is to be as interactive as possible. So I've got some notes prepared that I'll go through in terms of press conferencing and how it generally works. But I also want you to stop me, ask me any questions, and then ask me questions based on the holding statement I've just given out and the news report as if we were in a real live press conference. Okay. So the first thing about press conferences is depending on how sexy they are, you're either looking at this huge room of people and video cameras from all over the show, and you'll see 702, ETV, ENCA, AN7 microphones all over the podium, and everybody jostling to get their mic in the exact right place, and a horde of TV cameras, and the SABC will always be half an hour late. Or you'll have 5 people to whom the press conference pertains. So you're going to have to judge what sort of press conference this is. If you're in general news, it's going to be packed. So get there early. And I don't mean like 2 minutes early, I mean early. Journalists are known for being late, but get there early and sit in the middle in the front, like a total nerd. Doesn't matter, because you'll hear everything. Okay, then all your notes will be clear, and you're not sitting in the back going, what did he say? Because then, then your copy's not going to be clear, and you're going to make mistakes, and nobody wants that. All right. Also, cell phones. They should be on silent, but you can use them to tweet or to email back to the desk or whatever. I find it difficult to live tweet and take notes that are solid enough for a good story, so I don't. But some of the youngsters in the office have no problem with doing that, so that's cool. I suppose I'm a bit of an older generation for that. Now, press conferences have limited time. They're pretty much this, and that's it. The CEO inevitably has somewhere else to be, or the minister, or whoever it is, they've got somewhere else to be, and they'll get whisked off. And if it's government, it'll start like half an hour to an hour late, guaranteed, or not at all, because they'll suddenly have to cancel to go somewhere else. I once sat at the airport for 2 hours waiting for the former Minister of Communications. And we're saying to everybody else, what we should really all do is actually, as a unified force, get up and walk out, and then they'll stop doing it. And everyone's like, no, we don't want to miss a story. So government officials start late. Yeah, but if we all stood up and left, then nobody misses anything, right? Exactly. Then they miss it, and that's tough for them. Companies often use, I'm speaking from a company point of view, but it could apply to government or anybody else, because I am a business journalist, so I deal mostly with companies. They use press releases to get their message across quickly to the maximum number of people, or to make sure they control the message. A good example is a few years ago, there was a press conference called by Royal Canin. When there was that dog food that was killing dogs. They basically shut down all communication with the media, which pissed me off because I'd seen the guy on ETV the night before. So I knew he was talking to media. But they shut it all off, and they weren't talking to anybody, and then they called a press conference. And they tried to control that very, very carefully. And those answers were like political speak. You know where they say, use a lot of words and they say nothing? Yeah. Those were the answers the guys were using. And eventually I asked them the same question 3 times before I got the answer I wanted. You've got to be persistent as well. Yeah. So, before you walk into a press conference, what should you do?
Yeah, don't you want to prepare what?
Exactly.
What's going to be about?
Yeah, what's the topic?
Yeah.
Also, what's the company? Or the minister, or whoever. You know, do you have background on that person? Do you know how to spell their name? Seriously.
Yeah.
Seriously. The amount of times I've had to fact check someone's commonly spelled name in a story, and it's come through the wires, and it should have been edited at that point. I shouldn't be having to do that at my point. So make sure you know how to spell that and get it off the official thing. Not what Wikipedia says, the official thing. Go to the official website. If it's a company, how many staff do they employ? What do they do? What industry are they in? And also read up on the other news reports. What are the issues? Why are they calling this press conference? Generally speaking, the invitations are vague, especially if it's a product launch. Then it's a case of, we're inviting you to join us as we embark on our new endeavor and launch this fantastic product that's going to change the world. And it probably isn't, yeah. So if the PR won't tell you what it is, then you're risking wasting your time to go to something that could be a dud or it could be really great. Some PRs, if they know you really well, will trust you and they'll tell you. So building that relationship is important, but also keeping a wall. So we've researched the topic, we've researched the company, we've listed all the issues that matter, and we've developed a list of questions, and we know what the company's about. Okay. So now we arrive at the press conference. Early. Not like the SABC, please. No, they do. They run in half an hour late. They're like, we need to set up our camera somewhere. And everybody has to wait for them while they quickly scrabble. No, man, it's just rude and embarrassing. Okay, so read through the press pack. So that holding statement that I handed out, you'll get something like that, except usually it's in a nice little folder with a pen or not, depending on how well the company is doing or not. You can tell how well the company's doing with a pen stop being given out. Seriously, I've seen it with telecom. Make sure you read through it. Underline all the important things, all the questions you want to ask. And don't be shy. Don't be scared to put up your hand and ask, even if exactly. Do you have a question?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
So with regards to the kind of audience you're ranking for, is this before or after the press release? Or before? You know how you have to consider the kind of target audience you're ranking for?
Yes, yeah.
Is this before or after the press conference?
Oh, right. Sure, that's an interesting one. I tend to walk around with my audience in my mind.
Oh.
So everything I look at, every story I look at is as my audience would. Or in my case, as the audience I want to have would. So I'm trying to grow my audience. So that becomes inculcated. You know, once you know your beat and your audience, and it becomes part of you. Okay. We spoke about getting there early. If you're recording it, get there extra early. If you want to have your cameras up, you want to have your microphones on the podium, get there extra early. And dress for the occasion. You might well end up on TV. Seriously, when the guy starts going, water, nobody's taking notes anymore, the cameras pan. And then if you're sitting there with your finger up your nose, in your jeans with holes in, then, yeah, you're going to look a bit silly. So dress for that occasion. And also keep an eye on the cameras. I've noticed it's a good idea to just put your head down and pretend to be making notes when the camera comes past, so you don't have that bored look on your face. It does happen. Stand out as well. I'm more likely to notice somebody if I'm standing in the front who's wearing red, whatever the case might be, a bandana. Also, you're taller, so that does help. Because when you shoot your hand up along with everybody else, you want to be picked, right? So you want to catch the eye. That's a tip from the BBC, by the way. And don't be too stiff when you ask your questions. You want to come across as fairly relaxed, not too informal, but almost lull them into a false sense of complacency. You get better answers out of them. That in interviews, I found, as well, one-on-one interviews, works like a treat. You start off with a few jokes, blah-de-blah, next thing you know, he's told you his whole life story. You've got half an hour over your allotted time, and you've got great copy and great quotes. And that really matters. Okay, it is fair to write down the answers from a question that another journalist has asked. It's a press conference, it's all fair game. You can also go off topic, go totally off topic. Ask anything else that's pertinent to the company, because this is probably the only time you're going to have to do it. And that you manage to actually set up an interview with an incredibly busy CEO who has bodyguards, or minister, or whoever. Ask open questions. So don't ask a question that'll get you a yes or no answer. That's not good copy at all. And watch the speaker's body language. If you can tell they're getting a little bit nervous, that's a hot button, push it. Keep at it. You should get something good out of that. That, or you'll be told to shut up and they don't answer any question. A little bit like point of order. Okay, be prepared to be jostled at some press conferences. It does happen when they're really, really full. People get pushed around. So just stand your ground, especially if you're trying to get a picture or something. Okay, after the conference, if you write for print, or if you're broadcasting, you're going to want a one-on-one with whoever gave the press conference. Okay, this is because print needs an exclusive. They need something that will be different from what everybody else will have. Online, you don't give a continental. You're going to file straight away, it'll go up immediately, and you've broken the story or whatever, you know? But print, you need something different. You need a scoop of some sort. And for broadcast, it's often too noisy from where you are to get good sound bites. So you'll need to ask those questions one-on-one so you can get nice clarity. And whatever you do, if you're on print, don't ask the really hot questions during the conference, because everybody else is going to write down the answer, and you've given away your scoop. Okay. If you didn't have the opportunity, before you duck, try and say how's it to the person, or the PR, the spokesperson, or the public relations person, because that way you can start to build a relationship. It's then easier if you need to pick up the phone and get through to them at a later stage for something else. They're more likely to either return your call or answer your call. Or, hey, you might even get a business card out of them with a cell phone number on it. That's gold. So then you can get hold of them even by SMS. It's a great way of getting comment. Don't be scared to pick up extra information. So if the PR person leans over and whispers something in the CEO's ear, and you're sitting in front, you might pick it up. Be worth asking about a bit later. Sure, it's eavesdropping, but hey, we're journalists, right? We wouldn't be in this industry if we weren't voyeurs at some stage. Pick the when you're writing a story, pick the newsworthiest topic. Now, sometimes there's 2 or 3 that come out. You can decide whether they'll fit together in one story, or you can decide which one will work on its own as the biggest story and go with that. So pick the newsworthiest topic. I'm sure that they've taught you about writing stories. I find the general rule that I have is, if I had to sit down and explain this to my mom, what would I go in with? There was a car accident on the freeway, boring. When there was this car accident on the freeway, 5 bodies fell out of the car. That's gripping. Well, not in this country really. Would be headline news in England.
Yeah.
But that's how I choose my topic. And I also take the time getting back to the office to mull through what's been said. And then I've usually got everything down pat in my head as to how I want to lay it out. And then decide on your yeah, no, we've done it. And then let your readers know if the conference was called to deny an allegation. Not in the opening paragraph. At a press conference today, boring, right? But put it somewhere in, you know. So-and-so called the conference to deny, and then you can get all the background and context in as well, which is helpful, because you need background and context. Okay, and those were my notes. Does anyone have any questions at this stage? Okay.
My question is, with regards to the nature of the press conference, do you feel like it limits the amount of words that you can write? Because you know journalists have words, you're supposed to like write 500 words for a short story.
Yeah. Okay, so your editor might send you out and go bring me 500 words on this, and then whoever is speaking says so little that you can really only cobble together 200, and that's with background. Yeah, with lots of background and extra stuff thrown in for just good measure. Yeah, that does happen. That's one of the benefits of being online, I must say. I've never had that issue. I've got as much space as I need, or as little. So that does help. With print, though, you'll tend to find that the dailies don't worry too much about placing stories until after they're finished, because they'll work around length and pictures and other things. So your story might get consigned from what might have been a front page story to a nib, which is one of those little stories on the side. It depends. Yeah, it does happen.
There's one comment you said afterwards, it might be an idea to try and interview the person. Unfortunately, I don't know how practical that is, because very often a lot of these people get up and walk
They get
out.
up and walk out, yes. So you try and set that up beforehand. Speak to whoever invites you, and so you'd like a one-on-one. If you know the company fairly well, like if I go to, let's use EOH, the results right today. So had I gone to their results presentation, I could have popped up to the podium, but hey, Ashley, how's it going? I know the CEO very well. And then he would have said, are you going to tell me my results are boring again? I'm going to say, well, your results are always boring. There's no scandal, there's no nothing. You grew revenue by 30% again. But I would have gotten that one-on-one time without having to set it up. And that's why relationship building matters. As long as you keep a firm wall between that and them trying to influence your copy. Because that does happen. They think they can use their relationship to tell you what to write, or how to write. Or I had a PR phone the other day. I sent you some copy you must publish. I'm like, oh really? I must. I mustn't do anything except what I decide. Okay, moving along. So, you know, I put him in his place, but I can get away with it because I'm quite senior. Okay, any other questions? Yes, you're holding the whole thing.
Okay, what happened recently was that I was sent to the press release, right?
Mhm.
And they invited me to a company event.
Okay.
There was a miscommunication between where the place was. So these people forgot to tell me that I would have had to use 4 taxis, the how train and the how bus, and I'd still be nowhere near the place.
Where the heck were you going? In Mpumalanga?
Hotel, Rudefole in Pretoria.
Oh,
which
that'll
is
be why.
basically out of the country. Right?
Yeah.
And
You need a
I'm
passport to
thinking,
go there.
y'all forgot to tell me this. Because I had already arranged like a one-on-one interview. I had a publisher for the story.
Okay.
And then all of a
It's
sudden-
not the PR's job to tell you how you're going to get there. That's your job. You need to know exactly where you're going before you leave the office.
Okay.
Okay. And Google Maps.
It didn't work.
It often doesn't. I was sent around the corner instead of here, so. But you end up more or less in the right place. Anything else? No? Okay. So let's move on. You've all read the news story. There was contaminated food. It was uncovered by a report that I assume SARP managed to steal somehow, and it affected schools. Now, the make-believe part of this is that the company that supplied the food is called Royal Foods, Inc. We don't have incorporated companies in this country, just by the way, generally speaking. And they've called this press conference because they've got a long relationship with the schools department, especially in Limpopo. They've handed out a holding statement, which briefly says it's not their fault, it's their subcontractor's fault, which happens more often than you think. And they're here to now answer any questions, except you can tell from the press statement they're not going to answer much, right? They haven't named the holding company. What else haven't they done? And that's, well, how many? I mean, naming the schools would be, there's a lot of schools. And that's where you build your questions on. What's missing from there? Okay, so who's going to go first with the question?
Are they planning to track the stock that they have sent out because of that?
That should have already happened. Yeah. So when they said in there that they're cooperating fully with the department, it sort of implies that they've pulled all the food back in. But yes, you're right, that is a valid question. It's for, you know, it's sitting on a shelf somewhere still.
What about you, your suppliers?
Well, they are the supplier. They're at the top of the value chain, so they're the ones who make the food. So you'd have to, I suppose, ask that of the Department of Education, who isn't at this press conference today because they're too busy. But you could go back to the office and call them and ask them that. So that's also a valid question. Just remember, you've got to direct your questions at who the person is. You can go off topic, but if it's not relevant for that person, they can't speak for another company or another party. And they generally refuse to do so. And it's like asking the Deputy Finance Minister how Pravin Gordhan feels about being chased by the hawks. He doesn't know, he's not Pravin. Okay, yeah.
What about the subcontract? They don't have to name the company.
Well, they could argue there's a confidentiality agreement, but that's definitely a question I would ask. I think it's in the public interest to know who the heck the subcontractor is, because then you can track down who else they supply. You know, who else are they trying to kill with their food?
What's the OHS?
It's an occupational health and safety audit. We have an Occupational Health and Safety Act. I'm not all that clued up on it, but it specifies issues like cleanliness. If you're dealing with food, you have to wear gloves and masks and hair hats and that sort of thing. And your workshop factory should be structured in a certain way, laid out in a certain way, etc. You know, how often do you sanitize, that sort of thing.
How many school children have been affected by this contaminated food?
At the moment, 5. You don't believe me? You could follow that up with, are you expecting any more to be contaminated? Because, you know, is the food still out there? Or are you expecting news of any more to come to light? Because that seems like a very small number, given the amount of schools at play. Because there must be, I don't know, I think there's like 2,000 schools in the whole of country. So there must be quite a few in the Popa, yeah?
Have you done anything to console the families and the children who were harmed by the product?
Yes, we've set up a trust fund. We'll cover all the medical expenses, and we're offering counselling to them as well.
How are you going to ensure that like your other subcontractors are not making the same mistakes?
We're going to be auditing them as well. The same rigorous audit that we're subjecting ourselves to, and that we're subjecting our other subcontractor to.
You keep using the word auditing. How long do these audits take?
Sure, they can take a while. I mean, it depends what they find. It's, yeah, it's like how long is a piece of... No, nobody's died. They're just sick. Well, it depends on what the initial findings are. They could take anywhere from 3 to 4 weeks to 3 months.
So what are the training in the meantime while you're auditing the
Oh, we're supplying alternative food. So instead of beans, we're supplying some other vegetables.
So you mean alternative contaminated?
You're going to be good. No, because our factory has been inspected by the Department of Health already, and we're clean, and we've removed the contract temporarily from our subcontractor.
Temporary.
Until they pass the audit. If they don't, we'll fire them.
Until we get that.
It wasn't glass. Actually, the article does say it was glass.
Yeah.
Nasty stuff. Nasty stuff. Okay. Come on, guys. I'm a CEO who's on the ropes here. How much is this going to cost us? It's going to cost us 100 million rand to ensure that everything is up to spec. What is that as a percentage of our revenue, our profit? Those are business questions, but they're still helpful. It's 10%. Our shareholders are going to take a hit because we're going to take it out of headline earnings per share. And then we'll get a dividend either. Okay, come on. There must be more questions. Yes?
When was Royal Food established?
When was it established?
Yeah.
So that's at the bottom of the statement.
Really?
I think I made that bit up.
It says
No,
really.
you're right. I didn't. It was established in, let's make up a year, 2014.
So how many kids have we sick in 2 years?
It was 5.
Just 5? That's 5.
5 incidents have come to light so far.
It says here that you guys may correct me if I'm wrong. Something about you guys getting your food from your bottle, right?
You think I'd be able to remember and made a press release a bit better, huh? Then we didn't get the food, we provide the food. So you want to know where the food actually came from?
Yeah.
You want to know where it was sourced from?
Yes.
Okay. But then the contamination was down the value chain. It was at the subcontractor, not before the food got to us.
How do you know?
Okay, fair enough. It came from Malawi. Labour is cheaper there. Yes. We just had a drought. We didn't have any here.
That's what I was wondering. How is it in the local business?
It's actually not very good at the moment. Yeah, the economy's very bad.
What do you guys do to prevent that this happens again?
Well, we're having the full audit. All our machinery will be inspected, those of our subcontractors, and we're going to be putting into place new rules and regulations around supplying to us that require our subcontractors to go through a rigorous audit at least once a year. Why didn't you do that before?
You didn't exactly answer me because you mentioned use the word audit.
Yes.
Which I had asked you about before, right?
Yeah.
And you said these audits take about 4 to 5 months. So you just said
I said as
about a year.
much as they take a few weeks or up to 4 to 5 months, depending on what we find. How deep we have to go. Of course I didn't. Of course I didn't. That's what they do. They don't answer questions. So ask it in a different way. Ask it in a bit more of an obvious way.
How can we shut you down so
That's probably a question you should direct to the Department of Education.
or maybe your department since you guys are unions?
Yes, but we have a contract with the department. So you should be asking the department, what are they going to do to ensure their suppliers don't provide contaminated food? Are they going to cancel the contract with us over this issue?
And what happens with you, the contract gets?
We'll close. That's our only. We'll close. That's our only contract.
So
That's
you
why
can
we-
close down here, right?
Not necessarily. This is why we called this press conference, because we're damage controlling.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We're here to expose how much damage you guys have caused.
Exactly.
What exactly do you mean when you say a preliminary assessment has revealed that the effect of the contaminated foods is limited?
It was only 5 children.
It was only 5 children?
Yeah, who were sick.
And what about the other 238?
They weren't reported as sick, so the contaminated food passed safely through their system without causing any harm. And I'm not going to get more graphic than that.
Okay, so what did you think was safe to use was unsafe subcontractor? And also, did you not inspect their facilities when they can use their services?
Nice ones. We did a preliminary inspection after we received several tenders in for the subcontracting role.
So that's it? All we had to do was give you guys a tender?
And then we walked around the factory.
Really?
Yeah.
So you guys didn't check how valid these people are?
No, well, when you tender, right, you've got to provide quite a few documents, including certificate of incorporation, empowerment certificate, experience. You pretty much got to do a DNA sample. Have you seen a tender for government thing? Yeah, they're like this. So they are quite thorough themselves.
So you just admitted to contributory negligence?
She's out there.
No, I certainly did not.
Yes, you
I
did.
said we did a preliminary inspection.
Which means you were negligent.
No, we did our inspection as required by law. It's a preliminary inspection as required by law.
But by law, you were customarily negligent in not making sure that this source was valid.
No, we made sure the source is valid. It's a well-established company. It's empowered. All their credentials stacked up. They've got years of experience. It's a valid company. They have the machinery and the facilities. And when we did our inspection, everything was in order.
Then,
And then it wasn't.
customers, exactly.
Okay. You were first, I think.
The Department of Education carry on working with this piece of terminate the contract.
You've got to ask that of the department. I'm
Why
the
don't you answer it?
CEO of World Foods, because I can't say what the department's going to do.
Then why are you here? Why
Because
don't
I'm
we
the
just
CEO.
go through you to the Department of Education?
Because I'm the CEO of Royal Foods and I'm trying to damage control. And you all came because I'm the CEO of the company whose food was contaminated.
No, we all came to explain.
Yes, okay. So there was somebody else here. No? Okay, they've all disappeared.
Even after your preliminary scan through the factory, it ended up that there was glass flooding in the product. What are you planning to do for the next company or the company that you are now placing temporarily?
They will be subject to an audit, a fairly rigorous one, and an occupational health and safety inspection. It won't take 5 months because we don't have to go through as much paperwork as we do in this case, but they will be thoroughly vetted at our expense.
You keep talking about inspections. How often will it be done?
They'll be done once a year.
Don't you think that's not enough? Maybe more than once a year?
No, once a year is quite sufficient. And it's a norm in the industry,
Which industry?
the food industry,
The contaminated food industry.
the food industry.
Right. I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
It says here you have 4 branches. Where are these?
They're all in Limpopo.
All of them?
Yes.
In one place?
Yes. Limpopo is a fairly large province.
Have you ever tasted the product?
No.
Isn't it odd that you haven't tasted the product but you send it out for other people to have?
No, not really. I don't think the CEO of McDonald's habitually eats everything on his menu.
I think they do, actually.
I don't think so.
Yes.
No. I could
Then
tell
how
you
would you know that it's actually good food if you have not tasted it yourself?
because we have people who sample the
Clearly
food.
not good food, people can say.
Well, we have people who sample it. When the initial order was placed, there were samples. We tested them. They were fine.
How do you know that you can continue to trust your own product if you're not continuously checking up on it by testing the product itself?
Well, our testers our testing situation will be improved upon to ensure that the product is fine. So, yeah.
What are those specific foods that got the kids sick? The specific foods they ate?
It was beans,
Beans, just beans.
butter beans.
How does the glass and stone end up in the first place?
That's what we're trying to establish. We think it was done during the packaging stage. Well, that's why we've just started the audit. Once we have the results of that, they will be communicated to the press.
In 3 to 4 months, like you said.
Well, depending on how long it takes, but we'll certainly communicate them. And don't forget to follow that up with the story. Right, sorry, over there.
From a factory of 530 employees,
Yeah.
how were the glass and stones mixed in the beans, and what is the packaging process?
Well, basically, we get all the raw product in. We then bulk pack it. So we clean it, it goes through the system, it gets checked, we bulk pack it, and we then send it off to the subcontractor who splits it into smaller packets that are suitable for the school feeding scheme. So they get individualized.
So does the problem come from the subcontractor or from your factory?
It's from the subcontractor
Why isn't the subcontractor here to take consequences?
because I'm doing damage control.
Because you take all the blame because, hey, you were negligent, right?
Well, it's our name that's taking the blame. Or I could be trying to push the problem down the river, downstream, and blame the subcontractor.
Okay, now, what exactly are you doing to prevent loss of business?
For me,
Yes, because now your butter beans can no longer be trusted.
well, we've spoken to all of our clients, and they're quite happy to continue with their contracts, as long as we implement a few stricter measures, such as the additional testing and tasting process. And they're also welcome to come and do an inspection of their own, and they've all taken us up on that, and they said they will honour their contracts.
Do you have evidence that these people are happy to still be working with you? Because if I was a company putting my money
Well,
into your company and
That
you happen to have
is
food, why would I want to
that is confidential business information because it's competitive, and I can't disclose that.
Really?
Really.
Well, I'm a journalist and we have the right to access to information.
No, you don't.
Yes, we do.
Not that.
Really?
Really.
Yes, we do.
Even if you do a hire, you're not going to get that.
Okay, so you said this business of yours,
Mm.
your lawyer business of yours, was established in 2014.
Yeah,
When was it registered?
in 2014.
In 2014.
Mhm.
1 year.
No, in the same year.
Really?
Yes.
Who's the evidence?
The registration number is available through the CRPC office, or you can use legaldocs.net to look at it and the directors.
So you don't have information to back up your own?
No, I can make up the registration number, but that information is publicly available, so you can easily look that up. Seriously, you can, including the shareholding, the directors, everything. I've often used that to bus companies.
Since you say that your clients are still able to work with you, how have you started the story?
Well, there were a few orders that we were tendering for that we didn't win. We can't guarantee that we would have won them, but we didn't get them this time. So financially, we're looking at taking a hit. And because I'm listed on the JSE, I can tell you that over and above the 100 million is going to cost us these audits, we've lost a pipeline of approximately R1 billion.
Besides the Department of Education, were there any parents that came forward looking for some sort of compensation?
Yes, we were, and we've agreed to handle all the medical bills, provide them with therapy, and compensate them for their pain and suffering.
Okay, on your statement you mentioned two parts, that you are a private South African and a private company.
Yes.
But then you also mentioned that to get your supply from a different country, don't you think if you would actually got your foods here in South Africa, such a disaster would have been avoided?
Not necessarily. Look, wherever possible, we do source from South African farmers. We prefer to support them. Unfortunately, in this instance, the crop was just not available. It was decimated by the drought. So we didn't have a choice, and we wanted to keep kids fed rather than let them starve. You're going to get thrown out of the conference.
Didn't you guys get a red flag when it says 550 people would make 10 tons of food a year? That sounds irrational in terms of how many people would make so much food.
How so?
Obviously, there would be negligence if there's so little people making 10 tons of food a year.
No, it's dead easy to do 10 tons. We have an automated processing plant.
That's clearly faulty.
No, because the problem came in at our supplier.
These are the people that work for the supplier, right?
No, those are our people.
So your people were negligent?
So your
No.
people are the ones that
Our people bulk packaged with the automated system and sent it downstream to the supplier who mini packaged, and that's where the contamination came in, during the mini packaging process.
So how do we know that that's when the contamination took place, or how we should actually raise it?
Because we have a preliminary assessment, we've gone through our...
Go with assessment reports.
Wait until you have to deal with an audit opinion on results. Yeah?
How are you planning on rebranding the company?
Well, we're not going to go through a rebranding exercise. We're going to keep our name. We want to be transparent in that. But we are going to work very hard to rebuild the public's trust in the company. We're open to inspections from all of our clients. And if a school wants to come through and have a look, they're welcome to as well.
Why did you guys wait for 5 kids to get sick? Why not tell us?
By the time we got the initial the reports, 5 kids were already sick, and that's when we acted immediately.
And how severe are these sicknesses?
They're in hospital on a drip, but there are no internal injuries.
As of yet, because this thing has to.
Well, they've had time for everything to move through the system. Yeah. Sorry? Then we will be in a difficult position, and I can't really comment on that because it's speculation at the moment.
So you'll be defamed.
Hmm?
You'll be defamed for the rest of.
You know what defame means, hey?
Yeah, I mean the reputation of the company is
That's different to defamed. Look, that's not something the CEO is going to tell you. He's going to turn around and say, I can't comment on an unforeseen eventuality. And he's going to stop right there. Don't forget, they will have been coached by the PR people. Eh? They will have a list of questions and answers that could possibly be asked. And they will know them all off the top of their head. They will have spent 2 days preparing for this conference and only this conference. Yeah.
Breaking news. Kid number 6 just got sick, went to ICU and died. And now, the whole family of the child is outside picketing right now. What are you going to say to them?
Well, since we're holding this conference in a hotel in Sandton, I doubt very much they're all outside picketing. But...
Really? You don't think they have the rights to picket?
No, I didn't say that. I just said I doubted that scenario. I can't comment on something that hasn't been confirmed. As soon as we can confirm it, we'll investigate it and we'll get back to the press.
You investigate again.
That's what we do. You have an incident, you investigate. It does, it happens. It does. Okay, one thing I did forget to mention is before you ask your question, announce who you are. So I'm Nicola Mawson, IRL Business, or Pete Pompey's ENCA, or whatever the case is. Okay. It's quite important. It also shows a level of respect. Alright, how are we doing? We've got 10 minutes left for my part of this. Anything else?
What advice do you have to aspiring leaders?
Sure. Don't do it, for the love of God, don't do it. No, seriously, look, it's a tough job. It really is. You've got to love this job. Journalism is not, it's not a career, it's not a job, it's who you are. You either are a journalist or you aren't. That's something I firmly believe. It's very badly paid. You're not going to get rich unless you manage to move into corporate communications, which is why I'm one of the few mid-level people left in the industry, because everybody else I got off the corporate comps, where they get told their salary or something. So you've got to love what you do. And you've got to have some balls as well. But you also got to have respect. Now, seriously, you would have been thrown out of the conference. I know it was Mark, but you probably would have been escorted out or politely told to go away. Not necessarily. Just be very careful of standing on rights that you may or may not have. Just check those up first. Okay. But you do have to have walls. And you don't have to be, don't be scared of asking the same question 3 times. Don't be scared of picking up the phone and calling a CEO. I used to be incredibly intimidated by CEOs. They run this company to sort of 15 billion rand a year. I was wow. And then I wanted to do a walk around in one of their shops with them, which is actually, that is damage to reputation. When you walk around a shop where you know you've got bad service and you take the CEO with you and you're going to write about it and the bad service afterwards, full business day, in a full page. And he agreed. And then the PR phoned me back and said, no, Grant says it's cool. I went, oh, by the way, Grant's intimidated by you. And I went, me? Yeah. We can strike fear in people's hearts. So don't be intimidated by people. They all put their underwear on first, except Superman. Okay. What else? Learn as many different skills as you can. Don't get stuck in any one thing too soon. Increasingly, the world is going multimedia. We're going through restructuring at work at the moment. And what's going to end up happening is, unless you can edit video, shoot video with your cell phone, write a story, post it on the net, write it for print, create a podcast, load it up on the internet, you're going to be without a job. You need to be multi-skilled. I prefer business because a business journalist can write anything, but a news journalist cannot write business. I can write hard news, I can write business, I could probably at a push write sport, even though I don't really watch it. I can write opinion, I can write soft stuff features, so be multi-skilled. Yeah, and you have to get out of bed every morning wanting to go and do this. You have to be excited about it. The nice thing about being a journalist is that no 2 days are the same. You're out covering different things all the time, meeting new people. So, unless you're me, in which case you're stuck behind a computer doing the same job every day. No, really, that's what I do. Okay, anything else?
Just out of curiosity, when you had the press conference with Nicola, all the other guys who leave that?
No, I wasn't. I saw it on TV though. We have a TV in the newsroom, which is actually useful. And yeah, the British journalist, yeah. In my opinion, every other journalist there should have stood up and walked out. But that's only because I really felt for the journalist. I don't think he was going overboard at that stage.
How did you start out as a journalist?
The hard way around. I started doing a law degree. And then realized, which is why I was challenging you with some of your questions, and then realized that I think you got negligence or wrong. Have we locked you out?
Yeah, we have.
And then I realized that there's actually, I hated the way they taught it. This is the textbook I wrote, and I go and memorize all 150 pages and these 150 cases, and we're going to ask you 25% of your year mark, the minority judgment in one of them. I hated it. I couldn't. I'm like, where's the application? What am I learning? So I decided there was more justice in journalism. I switched over to do a journal degree. Couldn't get into the industry after that. So I spent 9 months in recruitment. Yay. Hated that. And then got into the Mail and Guardian. From there, battled as an intern, battled to get a job. Then went to engineering news, which is why I learned about the business side of things. And moved up from there. So it's a bit of a roundabout way. Anybody else?
Okay, when you spoke about body language, right?
Yeah.
In regards to press releases, what I noticed was that when you asked you hard questions, you hold the paper.
Okay.
So are those the signs you're talking about? Are those
Yeah.
what we should be looking out for?
When people fidget, or there was one thing I read when I was preparing for this, because it's not like I haven't covered press conferences, but I just wanted to see if there were any other tips that I didn't have. A journalist, I think she was also BBC. So she ended up right in the corner of the room at a George Bush press conference, and she couldn't get any questions in, but she could see his foot. And whenever somebody asked a difficult question, you know, so watch for those things. Nervous tics, basically.
I'm not sure if you're going to be able to answer this question, but yeah, we can gather information as a journalist, but coming to writing, like there are a lot of different writing styles, but what is one style that's very professional? Let's say me now, I'm trying to apply for a job,
Yeah.
and I have to submit my writing. I'm a student. How do I make my writing stand up for somebody who's more experienced in
Yeah,
writing?
that is, I mean, they've taught you the inverted pyramid style.
Yes.
That's a very easy way of getting a quick story done. I don't use it, or at least I don't think I use it. I don't think I've used it for years. I tend to, on the way back from a press conference, for example, build the story in my head. Anything I'm going to write, I build in my head. I've got a column I need to actually write tomorrow now, so I can go in on Friday's paper instead of Sunday's paper, apparently. But on the way home, I'll be building that in my head. And then by the time I sit down to write it, it'll just flow. And then you read it again, and you check it. A lot of journalists aren't very good at writing featurey sort of things. So where you, I don't know, interview the lady at the side of the street who sells oranges and apples and ask her life story. That sort of thing. And then you could build in colour and emotion. And lots of hard quotes. A lot of journalists often miss that. They go for the too hard writing, you know. And whatever you do not just throw facts on the page. Explain them. All right. Explain them when people understand. So if, for example, last investigative piece I did, I said there were ex-prisoners and there's ex-nurses. And Anton Harbour actually said to me, well, that doesn't help. What does it mean? So I had to phone my dad. He's better at math than I am. As a financial journalist, I know that's funny. And I said, okay, so how often will each prisoner be able to see a nurse? And it turns out a prisoner can only see a nurse once every 2 weeks. And that's a lot more real than a fact and a fact. So explain and watch out for logical leaps. Don't somehow get from A to Z without explaining in between. Okay. That's probably about the best I can tell you without reading your work. There's lots of different styles of writing. Anybody else? No? Are you all done tearing the strip off me?
Can you start an article
With what?
with quote?
Yes, you can.
Can you end with one?
Most definitely. If you're writing a feature article, ending with a quote is actually it's a beautiful way to close it, especially if that quote pretty much sums up what you've been writing about. Starting with a quote, yes, you can. I prefer not to unless it really, really, really works for that story. And that's happened to me once in 13 years.
And then with regards to writing for the audience, do you sometimes feel like journalists use really long words?
Yeah,
for audience to
absolutely.
understand?
Absolutely. You know, why use a short word when an insufferably long one will suffice? The simpler you write, the better. Don't assume your audience knows what you're talking about either. You know, they might not. But at the same time, don't explain things in such a way that makes it feel stupid. Integrate the explanation into the copy. You know, headline earnings per share, comma, a key measure of profitability, comma, came in at. Instead of HEPS was. What's HEPS? What does it mean? Yeah, and for you, don't assume your audience is dwarf, and leave out extraneous words. The amount of times I've taken I went to the shop in order to buy food. I went to the shop to buy food. Take them out. You'll see your copy is probably peppered with many more that's than you need. If you could say the sentence without using the word, take it out. It doesn't need to be there. It's extraneous, and it actually just makes your copy harder to read. Also remember that people are becoming increasingly lazy because of the internet. So for them to start reading something that's really long and get to the end of it, that takes quite a trick. So you've got to build things in a way, and it's also a trick for editors. I did that once. I wrote a story of 4,800 words, and I said, I've written it the way you can't cut it. There. And he said, well, I'm going to have to cut it. Otherwise I have to give you 2 pages in the board sheet. And I said, well, you can't cut it. You cut the heart out of it. And he came back to me and says, it's beautiful. I can't cut it. Because I wrote it like that. But the way I wrote was also like a bit of a narrative. So you want to keep reading and you get to the end. And that's also quite a trick. It doesn't apply to news stories so much, but certainly some of the soft stories. Yes?
In terms of reporting for broadcast, right?
Yeah.
Let's say if you're reporting for SABC and you're interviewing me.
Yes.
Sorry. So, what I noticed, there's a show that I really don't like, but I watch it every day so I can do according to myself.
Yeah.
I don't like it because the reporting is really bad. The person, the anchor, never knows the questions. She always goes, and I'm sitting at home.
Well, that could also be a nervous thing.
Why are they there to begin with?
You'd be surprised how many people end up in broadcast who do and ah. I've already said and ah quite a few times today. And I'm used to speaking to people. Sometimes though they're just, what is happening in the newsroom increasingly, which is maybe a good thing for you guys, I don't know, it's a bad thing for me, is newsrooms are increasingly employing more junior people because they're cheaper. You know, the longer you stay in the industry, the more you move up the ladder, the more expensive you become. And you don't agree with me?
No, agree.
Oh, okay. And the problem with that is that skills aren't there. The juniors are asked to do things that they just don't know how. And there's nobody senior to ask because, well, they're all gone. And you end up with inferior reporting. It's called the juniorization of the newsroom. It started probably about 10 years ago when I was a junior. But it's become increasingly bad now, and it really scares me. The amount of bad copy I've had to throw back at the guys, and often they don't care. That's another tip. If somebody's prepared to sit down and look at your copy and give you feedback, please, for the love of God, listen to them. They're only trying to help and make their copy look better. But seriously, they're not trying to diss you. They might be a bit rude about it because they're hectically busy trying to publish 40 other stories at the same time. But listen, they're giving you their time. Ask them questions. And take what they say inside. Don't ignore it, because they've been there for a lot longer and they know what they're doing.
How do you add color and emotion into a story without sounding like you're adding your opinion?
Without editorializing. Yeah, that is quite tricky. But there's a difference between you interviewing somebody who's got tears running down her face and she doesn't have tears running down, and you write that she's heartbroken when she isn't. You know. Pindy, comma, with tears running down her face, comma, described how her son drowned. That adds colour and emotion, and it's a fact. It did happen. We didn't make it up. Yeah, but you've got to be careful of that. It is a fine line, and I'm seeing editorializing increasingly come into news copy, and it has no place there. But do learn how to write columns, because a lot of people can't. And the trick to writing a column is have an opinion. Doesn't matter on what, anything. Pick an opinion. Have one. I can always rely on you for a question. No, it's good.
Do you feel like journalists should be equipped with the law?
Yes.
Do you think they are?
No. I think at the very least something on defamation, copyright. You know, we had an intern say to the motoring editor that, no, you can use this picture. It's publicly available on the internet. It's watermarked. I'm like, no, it's copyright. It's watermarked. Like, no, you can't use that picture. And he says, well, the intern says it's publicly available. I said, yeah, and the story that you're busy writing, you're going to put that on the internet, and that will make it publicly available. Does that mean that people plagiarize it? And a lot of people don't understand that. And yes, there should be a very basic course on defamation, copyright law, and also there should be courses on crime and cultural reporting. Who can you name? You know, if you're covering a trial of a rapist accused of raping a 6-year-old girl, who can you name in that case? What are you allowed to do? Or if it's a divorce case, can you name the parties if they've got minor children? That's why I stay away from all that reporting, actually.
You don't need permission to use pictures from social media, right?
Unless they've stolen from somewhere else, but generally speaking, the best way to do that is to embed it online. But if it's their profile pic or a picture they've taken and it's obvious, then usually you're okay. Just credit them. And if you can, actually just get hold of them. You know, there might be something more to just the pic. You might get a whole other story out of it while you're asking for permission.
Seeing that you said we just went from print to digital, how did your online journey?
Well, we're moving quite rapidly.
Yes.
I suspect in about 5 years of Star and the service will be dead.
I was going to ask you that. Where do you see journalism in the next 5 years?
Magazines will still be here because they focus on niche. Can you imagine the U dying ever? No. Why? Because it is crosswords. Well, yeah. I buy it when I need to test myself for grammar. Actually, I buy some kiddie stuff. My daughter, she's 8. But the U's not going to ever die. It serves a specific purpose, crosswords. I often write for a magazine called Brainstorm that focuses on the ICT industry. That'll stay around. It's in-depth ICT stuff that you can't get anywhere else. Newspapers like the Mail and Guardian should in theory stay around, but there's no money in investigative journalism, so they battle with that. It's expensive to do that sort of stuff. It can take you 3-4 weeks to do a proper investigative piece. The prison story I did took me 4.5 months. I was doing it part-time, it took 4.5 months. Newspapers, The Star, The Citizen, any news that you can get online, as soon as we've got proper broadband penetration in this country, they're dead. Which is actually a pity, because often they've got deeper articles in there, longer form journalism, that sort of stuff, which I think we don't read as much as we should. But I think eventually that will move on to the internet in some way.
How often do journalists get paid?
Sorry?
How often do journalists get paid?
Monthly.
For word or article?
You mean freelance or full-time?
Either or.
So freelance, the going rate is still R3 a word. It's been R3 a word for the past 10 years, if not longer, okay? If you're lucky, you can get PR writing at R4 a word.
Wow.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, and then you've still got expenses and stuff. There is an association called the South African Freelancers Association or something like that. You can find them on the internet or on Facebook. And they've got a whole rate to list of what they think journalists should be getting paid on a freelance basis. Well, what should be the standard? And it's up to us to turn around and go, no. It's like if everybody walks at the press conference, nobody misses a story. You know, if I accept work at $1.50, then the magazine's going to think they can pay everybody $1.50, and we're lowering the bar. In terms of if you're a full-time journalist, you get paid. Well, when you get paid on freelance, if you're very lucky, 15 days after invoice. If you're not so lucky, 60 days. And if you're really, really deplorably unlucky, 6 months. And that was a government department, by the way. I did some editing. Full-time journalists get paid once a month, and it's usually, as with most other companies, on the 25th. And now you're going to ask me about salaries. Sure. So our juniors are earning, well, our interns are earning, I understand, about 3. Our juniors are earning about 10. Neither of those two have to pay tax. The more senior you get, I'm underpaid. Everybody believes that. I really am underpaid. No, I found out today I'm on the wrong salary scale. Really irritated. Complete breach of the Labour Relations Act. Damn. But yeah, you're probably looking at about 50,000 if you're fairly senior. And editor and up, shit, I wouldn't know. I imagine our managing editor, based on the fact that I'll put it this way, our managing editor is sending his kids to Redham and it's 5,000 rand a month. So probably work out his salary from that. Yeah. And I'm like, you're spending what? You earn way too much, so I can do your job more effectively than you. I am. Okay. I think, are we out of time? No? We could chat for a bit longer, okay? I used to. It is one of the great perks. And by traveling, you don't mean driving to and from things, right? You mean actual trips. Yeah, I used to a lot more. I'm more desk-bound now, so I can't say yes to every trip that comes along as much as I'd like to. Countries I've never been. But yeah, I've been to quite a few places. I was in Zimbabwe 2 weeks ago. It was really interesting. I did the UK earlier this year. I've been to Spain, New Orleans. Classic. We've been to Longstreet. New Orleans is like Longstreet with steroids. 24/7 drinking, people walking around like this at 10 o'clock in the morning, sitting there all night, and they literally have walk-in pubs. It's unreal. I should have written a travel piece on that. So yeah, you do get to travel a lot. One thing you need to bear in mind is it's not cheap though to travel. The company taking you will pay for the airfare, usually cattle class. I've only ever flown business class twice. I've done quite a few trips, and they'll pay for the hotel, and they'll most often make sure you have dinner, and it'll be bed and breakfast. Then you're on your own for lunch. And if you're in Europe, especially if you're in a touristy place, and then those gifts that you want to buy for your family and friends back home, yeah, you can wipe out an entire credit card in one week trip. So just watch for that. Yeah.
Do you feel like your life is in danger?
At the moment, No, because I'm a business journalist. If you chat to one of the star journalists, for example, she was telling me, well, back in the day, the olden days, but when I started out as a journalist, about 15 years ago when I was interning, you could go to a protest about anything, and people would stand there with boxes and hangers and shitties and bits of broken glasses and whatever else. And as long as you had your notebook or a camera, you were cool. You were fine. They knew that you weren't on anybody's side, you weren't partisan, you were there just to report on what was happening, and that actually works in their favor. And that gave you a measure of protection. Ken Westerberg being shot, I don't know if that was just an aberration or deliberate. I just think he was in the wrong place at the wrong time. He was the famous Bang Bang Club photographer. Yeah. Not the one who did the vulture, the one who got killed in Tokoza. Yeah. So I think he was just in the wrong place at the wrong time, and the bullet wasn't meant for him. But nowadays, you go to a protest and you're in danger of having your camera stolen. If you're using a camera instead of a cell phone, you're in danger of getting hit over the head by something, bottles flying. There's no safety anymore in the notebook thing. So whatever you do, don't cover one alone, especially not if you're female. And I'm not going to expand on that. Especially not in town. Oh, and if you go into town for anything, be really careful. Hide your cell phone. I work there. Not funny. Yeah. Anything else, guys? I'm actually curious. Were you able to say that your travel to Zimbabwe as a journalist? Yes. I was lucky. Or unlucky, depending on how you put it. The PR who invited me, who's not stopped nagging me about other things since, he's the one who said I must publish this column. But we decided to go to Zim because there was a fantastic opportunity to potentially bring other ministers on the same trip and to get an original copy out of Zim. Uncensored original copy. So he organized the entire thing, including accreditation, and I had to then pay $200. Now let's work that out. 15 to 1, 5,000 rand, pretty much, for accreditation. I'm keeping that card forever. I was accredited for 4 days, and that's it. And then I had to leave again. But yeah, he smoothed everything, and I think the fact that his client is Dr. Mugabe's niece's husband having something to do with that. Yeah, I didn't ask any questions though, because the opportunity to go in, and all the stories were fair and balanced. And I warned him up front, you're only going to get fair and balanced. I'm not writing puff pieces. I'm not prostituting my website. So, and in the end, he was quite happy. He says, wow, you might bring the money with. Thank you. Not sure if that's a compliment coming from PR. But yeah.
Have you received any awards?
Yes. I've received 2, not the top category, but they still count, 2 Telkom of the Year awards, and I was a finalist in the Sanlam Financial Year Awards. And I'm still waiting to get my Vodacom award this year for the Prisoner Story, but I think they've forgotten me. Those, it's not the money that you go for when you enter those. It's to be able to go, I'm an award-winning journalist. You know, to be able to stick that on your wall. And it's also, it's like everybody else is good. Yeah, your stuff is good. I think a lot of us are still quite insecure whenever we see our name in print, especially if we've written a column. What if everybody hates me for what I've written, sort of thing? We do feel that still, you know? What if I made a mistake in that story? What if I got something wrong? By the way, mistakes happen. Suck it up, they happen. You're never not going to make a mistake. So that's why awards, I think, are important. Because they do reward excellence. I do not enter the government GCIS SADC awards. I won't enter those. Because I don't think they're impartial enough. Anything sponsored by the government, I'm very wary of. Wow. This is the same bunch that are trying to make us all register as journalists. Yeah, no. Have I really? Is that a first? Yeah? Well, anyway, thank you very much for hosting. It was great fun. And just so you know, I did look a bit nervous because I was. You were my guinea pig lecture. So thanks for not being too horrible. No, I appreciate the opportunity.